Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. Today we're looking at the 2025 special election in the state of Tennessee in Tennessee's 7th Congressional District between Democrat Aftyn Behn and Republican Matt Van Epps. So in this video I'm going to break everything down, how we got to this point, why is this race up, and what the current expectations are in this race, and ultimately my final election prediction. Now this district, Tennessee's 7th District, the special election is being held on December 2nd, 2025. So obviously today the video comes out Wednesday, November 26th, and on next Tuesday, about 6 days away, this election will take place. And it'll fill the remainder of this seat until next year, till the 2026 elections, where the seat will be up again for re-election. Now it's going to be open because Republican Congressman Mark Greene decided to retire and took a private sector job after he helped pass the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. So that's why this race is open to begin with. Now, on October 7th, the primary elections were held, where Republican Matt Van Epps, this guy, and Democrat Aftyn Behn won their respective primaries to advance to the general election. Now, early voting lasted between November 12th and November 26th, so when this video comes out, the early voting period will officially be ending. It will be the last day of it, November 26th, so that's all said and good. And now we're talking about this race and how competitive it could actually be. As for this district, the 7th District is described as a mix of a urban and rural district, which includes parts of the city of Nashville that are heavily Democratic, such as the downtown, two universities, Belmont and Vanderbilt, and most of the city's majority black precincts. Surrounding counties, including Cheatham, Dixon, Robertson, and Williamson, are generally affluent and include many majority white exurbs and suburbs. Franklin, in particular, is a wealthy Republican suburb stronghold. Montgomery County, anchored by Clarksville, Tennessee's 5th largest city, is politically mixed and slightly more competitive than the district overall. Clarksville is diverse with white, black, and Hispanic populations spread throughout the city, and the county often serves as a bellwether for the district. The district's rural areas are overwhelmingly Republican, consisting of 8 counties that are predominantly white, and this portion helps maintain the district's strongly red character. And in just a few minutes, I'm going to be breaking down the results from 2024, how these counties voted, and go through that more in depth when we get into the analysis of the election prediction itself and all that. In the 2024 election, just a rough vote here, President Trump got more than 22% margin of victory in this district, and it also supported Mark Greene by over 21%. So essentially voting lockstep with the president on that one. As of the Cook PVI district for 2025, this district is listed at Republican plus 10. So just to give you an idea, this district right here, this is the Tennessee 7th, it is a Republican plus 10 district, which based on the ratings that we use of 1 and under being tilt, 1 to 5 being lean, 5 to 15 being likely, and 15 or more being safe, this would be considered a likely Republican district, one that Republicans should usually win, but there is potential in the right election environment that they could get competitive, which is why we're making the video and talking about it today. So that's all that. Now, the Republican primary, this is how it shook out with Matt Van Epps winning. The Democratic primary also shook out as well. As we'll see the results here, Van Epps got 51.5. Jody Barrett came in second with 25.3. Aftyn Behn, the state representative from the 51st District, won the Democratic primary by a very close margin, actually, 27.9 to 24.88 over Darden Copeland, and Bo Mitchell getting 24.17, so very, very close Democratic primary. For the general election, a little bit of disagreement on the overall predictions for this one. Inside Elections has it as lean Republican, which again anticipates an under 5-point margin of victory. Cook Political Report has it as likely, and Sabros Crystal Ball has it as likely Republican as well. So all three predictions sites do certainly give the edge to the Republicans in this race, and given that it's Tennessee, obviously you would probably assume that. But it is interesting, there's a little bit of disagreement on how close this election could get, especially with Inside Elections, the most recent update, November 20th, being lean Republican, so that could show a tightening of the race. Now, several notable Tennessee Republicans have made endorsements, including the 2 U.S. Senators, Marsha Blackburn and Bill Hagerty, as well as 4 U.S. Representatives, Nick Begich from Alaska, Tim Burchett from Tennessee, Andy Ogles from Tennessee, and John Rose from Tennessee. On the Democratic side, Jasmine Crockett, Maxwell Frost, and Pramila Jayapal have all endorsed Aftyn Behn in this race, and says some other individuals as well for Democrats. The only polling that's been done in this race are 2 polls from October thus far, both from Democratic pollsters, Impact Research, and Workbench Strategy. Workbench Strategy was sponsored by Ben's campaign, and this poll was sponsored from Impact Research by Your Community PAC, a Democratic-aligned PAC. Now, they both showed Matt Van Epps leading over Aftyn Behn, but the margins in which they're leading is very important. Van Epps is leading 52% to 44% over Behn, with 3% undecided. So an 8-point lead in a district that is Republican plus 10, according to the Cook PVI, but it's also important to note that this district voted for Mark Greene by about 21 points. So only an 8-point lead for Van Epps. Yes, it is a Democratic poll, but an 8-point lead is not a very strong position to be in, considering the Republicans should be winning by a lot more. But as I'm about to show you, this really isn't too much of a surprise when you consider how the other special elections have gone this year. So there have been a few special elections in 2025 so far. And I remember doing videos back in the spring and the summertime covering these. We have 2 of them in Florida, one in Virginia, one in Arizona, and now the one in Tennessee. So in Florida, it was Republican Matt Gaetz' district who resigned from Congress, and Republican Jimmy Patronis won against Democrat Gay Vallimont 56.9 to 42.3. Overall, about a 14-point victory, 14.6 if you really want to get technical. But Florida's first district in 2024, it voted red by 32 points for Matt Gaetz. So against the same Democratic candidate, Gay Vallimont. So it was a pretty massive Republican underperformance in that race. And that wasn't the only one that was up in Florida. There's also Florida's 6 districts that Mike Waltz won, where Republican Randy Fine ran against Democrat Josh Wheel, and this was also around a 14-point victory, 56.7 to 42.7. Now, in that one, we saw another one where Mike Waltz won by 33 points in 2024. So in both of those special elections in Florida, the Democrats did much better at getting voters to get out and vote for them, and the Republicans certainly seem to have an enthusiasm problem where these races were a lot closer. Now in Virginia, we also saw Jerry Connolly win or retire from this race, or the incumbent died on May 21st, 2025, and the Democrat James Walkinshaw replaced Jerry Connolly in the 11th district. He won 75.1 to 24.7, like a massive, massive win of around 50 points. Virginia 11th, we can look at this in 2024. I believe it's right here. It was a 34-point victory. So the Democrats won by an even larger margin on this one. Certainly very, very significant. So in both the Florida and Virginia elections, both times the Republicans seemed to underperform and the Democrats seemed to overperform. Now, this really isn't too surprising, especially in the context of the 2025 elections, where Democrats did way better than expected in the New Jersey governor's race. Yes, they won, but they won by a margin of nearly 15 points almost. That was a lot larger than was expected. In Virginia, Abigail Spanberger won the governor's race in Virginia as expected, but she won it by over 15%, when most polls showed her winning by around 8 to 9%. So the Democrats did really, really well there. So as we're talking about these special elections, and then you also have Arizona 7, where Adelita Gurjava won by a very large margin as well, it's really not too much of a surprise here to see the trend in Tennessee 7 continuing of a very close race where it seems like the Democrats are going to outperform from the 2024 election and Republicans are going to way underperform. The question is by how much? Because according to the Cook PVI of the district, if it's only Republican plus 10, this puts this race right around that competitive category if you were to cut it in half essentially of right around that 5-point margin. But if you also take the results from 2024 and essentially slice them in half, that would put this race right around a 11 to 12-point margin, which is where I think the race is more likely is to line up. But special elections, the Democrats have done certainly a lot better and essentially always have cut the margins in half in 2025 thus far. So for what this means for the districts overall, we can look at the 2024 map, where the largest counties are Montgomery, which had 77,000 votes, Davidson, which had 71,000, Williamson, 47,000, Robertson, 32, Dickinson, 24, Chatham, 20, and then down the list there. So how this is going to go for voter turnout is going to be interesting, because there was 322,000 votes, but it was obviously 2024 presidential election. In 2022, the midterm year, there was only 180,000 votes. For a special election, we're probably more likely to see something like this, where there's 188 or 180,000 votes, where Davidson and Montgomery were still the two largest counties, but by actual votes, Davidson ended up being the largest area. Now, obviously, Davidson, which is where Nashville is, this is the most Democratic part of the county. This is where the Democrats, if this race is going to be very close, are going to be looking to really rack up a lot of votes. And Davidson, around that 37-point margin and 71,000 votes or so from 2024, the margins here are going to be key. It voted for Megan Barry over Mark Greene, 67 to 30, a 37-point margin. The margins on this one for the Democrats to have a good chance of winning, you're going to need to see margins really, really high. Obviously, 37 points is still very large, but Nashville's probably going to need to be something like, I don't know, 45 to 50-point margin of victory or so, maybe 75-25. If they can get that high for the Democrats, it would show the Democrats are performing pretty strongly, and there's a real chance that this could potentially end up going to the Democrats if everything else remains constant in this district. But Davidson certainly very, very important and very big there. Now, other counties you're looking throughout here, Montgomery County voted 58 to 39 for Greene over Barry in 2024, 58-39. 2022 was 61-37. But again, when we're looking at this map and what it all means for the 2025 race, we're looking at these margins and saying, if Greene won at 58-39, are we seeing an election where Republicans are winning it like 54-45 and the Democrats are cutting the margins here? Is that something we could be looking out for the election night 2025? Robertson 73-25, Cheatham 70-27, Williamson 65-33. You're looking at all these numbers and you're really trying to forecast it for the election, and you're looking at how can the Republicans, how close can they get to replicating these percentages? Because Mark Greene got 59.5% district-wide in this race. The current polling, the two polls we have, both show Matt Van Epps around 52%. So I do agree with the prediction analysis, which is that Matt Van Epps seems to be the one that's more likely to win this race. He's in the driver's seat right now. But at 52%, there is a real possibility that this race at very least falls under 10 points and becomes very competitive, especially given the fact that Democrats have performed very well in special elections thus far. The question is going to be, if that happens, how and where? You look at these counties like Wayne County and Perry County and Hickman County, Dickinson County, Humphreys County, Benton, and Stewart. These are all much smaller in population, but they're also a lot redder. So if you're going to be looking for massive gains on election night from these very key red areas, they're probably not going to have too much. Now, it's possible they may swing a few points, seeing as they're not too many people. So a little bit of voter turnout, sort of voters staying home, may swing these counties by a few percentage points. But you're not going to see a raw vote number shift that large in these areas. The main areas I'm watching for are going to be the numbers in Montgomery, Cheatham, Davidson, Williamson, and then Robertson County. These are going to be the main ones I'm watching, sort of surrounding the Nashville area and surrounding Davidson County. And these are the key areas I'm watching for in terms of if the Democrats are making this race very close, I'm watching out of these areas to see where the margins are more likely than happen. It's just really when it comes down to it, it's simple math. And this one, it's just go where the people are. Every single one of these counties have at least 20,000 votes from 2024. If you're looking from 2022, these had 40,000, 40,000, 28, 17, 13, and 11, so they're all above 10,000. Probably a more accurate number for what we're expecting for the special election. But those are the key counties I'm watching for around the Nashville area, because I think this is where the votes are going to be, and that's going to give us the best telltale signs at how this race overall is going. So depending on voter day turnout, you could really make this race anywhere from lean Republican to safe Republican. But I think when it ultimately comes down to the fact we've seen Republicans underperform time and time again in these special elections. At the start of November, they just underperformed at the November 2025 elections in Virginia and New Jersey. I don't see why this special election would be any different. I'm expecting higher Democratic voter turnout. It's also worth noting this race is getting a lot of national attention as well. An article from Tennessee Lookout said super PACs have spent over $7 million in just this one U.S. House special election to go, and a large reason being the fact is how close the House is. Right now, due to Marjorie Taylor Greene resigning, Republicans have 219 seats. Again, the majority is 218, so the Republicans only have a two-seat majority in the House right now. Democrats currently have 213, which I believe there is 1 or 2 vacancies left for the Democrats as well. At the end of the 2024 election, Republicans had 220, Democrats at 215. So there are 2 vacancies on the Democratic side. So those are obviously very competitive on the House side of things, and there's a lot at stake. Democrats are also hoping to keep up with the momentum of these races of the past and try to get this going and try and really just top off another great election in 2025 for them. Millions, as NBC reports, millions have poured into this race in terms of money. And also, it's worth mentioning how the National Republicans are doing, because this is coming at a time where both President Trump and the National Republicans are not polling too great right now in recent polling averages. Trump is now down 11.8% in the Real Clear Politics polling average, not the lowest he's seen. The lowest was probably around a few days ago, and he was down 13.1, but it's certainly about as low as he's gone in his second term thus far. It's also worth noting the Democrats are leading in the national generic ballot for 2026 by roughly 4.8%, which is also near their peak for what this chart has been. I think it may even be the peak when you look at it at 4.8, where a few days ago it was 4.6, and at that point, that may have been the best the Democrats have been doing. So this is really all kind of a perfect storm for the Democrats to make this usually pretty red seat a lot closer. Now, does that ultimately mean I think the Democrats are going to win here? Bottom line, no, not really. I think the Democrats are going to perform better in this seat like they have in the other special elections, and I think it's going to be a lot closer. I do think it'll fall under 10 points, but I think it's not going to fall under 10 points by all that much. I think it'll probably be around like a 9 to 8 point win or so, and I think ultimately Matt Van Epps will end up winning this race by a likely Republican margin. But the fact that it's going to go from being a 20-point victory in 2024 to around a 9 to 10-point victory is going to tell a lot of signs. The Democratic momentum heading into 2026 is very strong, and that's going to be the main talking point coming out of this race, is that the Democrats are feeling it and feeling really energized about next year because they made this race very competitive, and ultimately the Republicans, even by winning this race, it's still going to be very, very close. But I do think when everything is said and done, Matt Van Epps will win by around 9 points. How much does Matt Van Epps win it by? Just due to the fact that it is overall more of a Republican district. But the Democrats getting it under 10 points and making it essentially cut in half from the margin of 2024 would be a very strong sign to them that they're able to run competitive races in special elections like this one, and could be a good sign to them that the 2026 Democratic wave that a lot of Democrats are hoping for may potentially be coming to fruition if everything is said and done. So with that, I think Matt Van Epps will win this race by a likely Republican margin, and the Tennessee congressional map will overall remain the same, with this district being the only Democratic one, and the rest of all the districts in Tennessee continuing to be held by the Republicans in which they do. And this race will stay red, but clearly will be a little bit of a scare to a lot of Tennessee Republicans that it will end up being this close, which I do ultimately expect that it will. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to hit like and subscribe if you did. Also, make sure to stay tuned for the election results on Tuesday. I have not totally decided if I'm going to try and do a live stream for that yet, but I would like to do one if everything obviously is permitting. But we'll have to wait and see and stay tuned for that one. But certainly keep an eye out for that and all the other videos I post. I post at least one new video every single day, and I try and post one new short video every single day as well. So make sure to keep your eyes peeled for those as well. Thank you so much for watching. Again, please remember to hit like and subscribe. Leave all your comments down below, and I hope to see you in a future video.